Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting of February 27th, 2023. For viewers watching at home, some members of the public may be participating via video conference or teleconference. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Ferris?
Here.
Commissioner Lanson?
Here.
Commissioner Link?
Present.
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Here.
Chair McMahon?
Here. Tonight, we have with us Planning Division Manager Steve Kearns. Mr. Kearns, are there any written comments, announcements, or continuances at this time?
Thank you, Chair. We do not have any continuances this evening. We do have a supplemental that was distributed to the Planning Commission this afternoon via email. There's also a link on the city's website and the Planning Commission agenda. The supplemental provides clarification to some of the staff report narrative as well as clarification on a project condition. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Public comments. We have one public comment. It's the applicant. Should I still read the?
Under 7A.
Under 7A. Oh, that's okay. So we don't have any general public comments.
No.
Correct. Okay. So then I'm not going to read that. Next, we have the consent calendar with the minutes of the February 13th, 2023 Planning Commission reorganization meeting. Are there any comments? Do we have any comments or a motion from my fellow commissioners?
Move to approve the minutes.
Are there any other comments to that? Will you please prepare us for a vote?
Commissioner Ferris?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Link?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Yes.
Chair McMahon?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Will the clerk please open the public hearing for item 7A?
Item 7A, hearing having been advertised as required by law, is open to consider agenda item 7A, proposed 27-unit apartment complex extension, general plan land use amendment 2020-70026-LU, development agreement 2022-70511-DAGR, residential plan development 2021-70019 RPD, specific plan amendment 2020-70027 SPA, protected tree permit 2022-70626-PTP, and negative declaration 2021-70893-ND. Recommend City Council allow a general plan amendment to change the land use from industrial to high-density residential, and a specific plan amendment to amend SP 07 to establish specific development standards and amend the SP land use map to assign a residential land use category to the site, currently industrial, and a residential plan development permit to construct three two-story buildings consisting of a total of 27 apartment units, reconfiguring drive aisles and an addition of 54 parking spaces to the site. The added areas and buildings extend the existing Arroyo Villa apartment complex adjacent to the north. A protected tree permit to allow a minor encroachment within the protected zone of 1 Coast Live Oak and 2 California sycamore trees located off-site but within potential areas of disturbance. Recommend City Council adopt an ordinance approving a development agreement agreement establishing specific standards and community benefits for the construction of the proposed multifamily residential apartment complex expansion and adoption of the draft negative declaration that has been prepared in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, for the subject project located at Rancho Canal Boulevard and Corporate Center Drive, APN number 667-0-173-025, adjacent to and north of 1300 Rancho Canal Boulevard. The applicant is Chappelle Properties Incorporated.
Thank you. Presenting on behalf of staff is Senior Planner Nazar Slim. I need your microphone.
Thank you for that. Once again, thank you, Planning Commission, city staff, members of the public. The presentation before you is a request to expand the existing Arroyo Villa Apartments onto the adjacent vacant lot located just north of 1300 Rancho Conejo Boulevard. Staff tonight is recommending Planning Commission recommend to City Council to adopt the negative declaration 2021-70893 in accordance with California Environmental Quality Act, and adopt a resolution approving the following: a general plan amendment, LU 2020-7026, development agreement 2022-70511, residential plan unit 2021-719, and specific plan map amendment 2020-727. Lastly, protected tree permit 2022-70626. A little bit of background. The physical site itself is approximately 1.57 acres. It's located on Rancho Conejo, or off of Rancho Conejo Boulevard, and right where Corporate Center tees into that boulevard. It's directly adjacent to and north of 1300 Rancho Conejo. It's currently undeveloped, although it was previously graded. It's fairly level with Rancho Conejo Boulevard, and again, just level. There's not much of a grade there. A little bit of the history of the project itself. This does have some application history. In January 28th of 2020, the general plan map amendment 2020-726 was initiated by City Council, and that actually allocated for 48 units, but only 27 units are being used for this project, and also allowed the formal application process. Part of that application process did require that they go through a pre-app conference, and then they also submit formal applications, which they did in May of 2020. This brings us many years, not many years, but a few years later here, tonight, 27th, and we are at the Planning Commission hearing. And this is a little bit more about the project process. As I mentioned, there was a pre-screen procedure, and formal applications needed to occur within 12 months of having that pre-screen approval or initiation. And again, all requisites having been satisfied, the Planning Commission is being asked to make the recommendation to City Council. This is a view of the surrounding land uses. As I mentioned before, this site is just north of the, I guess let's point it here, just north of the industrial site. And it is also adjacent to the existing Arroyo Villa Apartments. And this project is essentially going to be an expansion of that project itself. As you can see, there's currently surrounded by industrial uses as well as residential. So Rancho Conejo being more or less the dividing line. Just a quick project summary. These are going to be 3 two-story apartment buildings with housing a total of 27 units and a total of 54 parking spaces to accommodate that development. And there's also a required parcel merger with the adjacent apartments to the north, and that's a condition of the approval. Also, as I mentioned, the acre size is about an acre and a half. Here's a typical elevation. In general, the architecture takes on a Mediterranean revival style, uses smooth stucco, plaster, there's tiled roof, and as it's shown here, enhanced trim with gables and archways. Also, what's also kind of appealing is that they do have a tuck-under parking garages that are in the back, so they're not really seen from the front. There is the unit mix itself contributes towards the RENA requirement, so it does go to fulfill our housing needs. And there's just a quick breakdown: 11 one-bedrooms, 12 two-bedrooms, 4 three-bedrooms, a total of 27 new units. As I mentioned, RENA, we do have in our sixth cycle here an amount or a goal, I should say, of 532, and these four affordable units do go to fulfilling that moderate category. And just for reference, this is the latest Ventura County income limits. The box, or I should say the row at the very bottom is highlighted. That's the moderate level, up to 120% of the median income. And those are just to give you an idea of the incomes that would be looked at and that would qualify for these four affordable units. In addition, there are private usable open spaces for these units, and they're listed here by unit type. So depending on the size of the unit itself, whether it's 1 to 3 bedrooms, that sort of dictates the size of the balcony or patio that would be used by that unit. There are, however, associated with this proposed waivers. The Thousand Oaks Municipal Code planning standards do require that these private spaces be 100 square feet minimum and have a minimum 7-foot dimension. And in all cases here, we're falling a bit below that. And as an example, we go with a 66 square foot minimum on the smallest outdoor space, and the smallest dimension of about 6 foot, in most cases 6'6". So these are the waivers that are being requested tonight with this proposal. And here's just to kind of show you an example of what these would look like. This is just a typical layout for a unit that's on the ground level, and this would be more or less a patio, 10 feet by 7 feet 7 inches. Upstairs, you would have a balcony. And in this case, 66 square foot balcony would look something like this: 10 by 6 foot 6 inch minimum dimension. This area and these dimensions are useful. They're very well utilized for a barbecue or even a seating area. We should also note that there could be some minor storage in here as well. But there is going to be a bicycle corral provided on site, so bicycles don't necessarily have to take up the space there, so they can get more utility out of it that way. And now we're kind of shifting over to the common open space. They are proposing a common open space, barbecue, and outdoor picnic area. However, I do want to make it clear that since this is going to be an expansion of the existing Arroyo Villa apartments, they are going to have access to the other well-established amenities such as the pool area, fitness center, and entry court. There's also a children's play area as well, which should be mentioned. With respect to parking, they are parking their project at the standard. They are providing some affordable housing, and they would have been eligible for at least one concession in this case, and they are not taking any concessions. So they are parking this to standard. There's 3 additional spaces, and I know for the sake of clarity, I do want to mention that there would be 3 additional spaces within the context of the existing subject site. However, part of this connection, if you will, this parcel merger, is going to require that they have an aisle drive connecting the two developments. In doing so, they're going to need to sacrifice at least, I believe, 1 ADA space and a trash enclosure. In doing so, they're going to have to figure out where they're going to put the ADA space, and because the trash enclosure is going to get relocated on the existing development, they will have to probably take over a couple spaces there. So these 3 spaces would help to offset that deficit. So it's no longer a deficit. So it would be a net zero loss for either project. And if that's not clear, we can discuss that. Also for protected trees on site. Now, there are no actual trees on site, but however, there are trees adjacent to the property, just over the property line. There are 2 California sycamores to the, well, actually, I'll explain it, but this next slide will show it. To the east on residential property, and there is a California oak, coast live oak, on the corner about I want to say northwest of the property. These are the locations I was just referring to. So this is the oak, and these are the 2 sycamores. It should be noted that although the construction isn't going to make direct contact with the trees, it may encroach into the root zone. And in doing so, they have a tree report that they provided that has a satisfactory monitoring measures and protective measures to deal with that potential encroachment. It is potential now because we don't know to what extent, but that it is addressed in the arborist report. In addition, I've also kind of highlighted there was, because of the past storms we've had, there was a fallen tree that actually came down onto their property from the adjacent, I believe, 1300 Rancho Conejo site. It was verified that tree was actually a conifer species and not a protected tree. Therefore, it doesn't really affect the arborist report nor the proposal itself. As far as community benefits, I touched on this before. The 4 affordable units in the moderate income range are also proposed as part of this project, and they will be part of the mix. So we'll have 4 affordable and 23 market rate units. Now, just to touch a little bit on the amended specific plan for specific Plan 7, the Rancho Conejo plan. This is going to be a map amendment. So there's going to be no code language that's going to be changed as part of that specific plan. However, there is going to be a map amendment. And I'm going to just kind of zero in here. If you take a look at it, this is just the excerpt, or sorry, a cutout of the previous plan that I just showed on the previous slide, but it's a little close up here so you can see what we're looking at. This is the existing site right here. It is currently U, which is industrial, and there's going to be a map amendment and a GPA as well, associated GPA to go from employment park to apartments, and a general plan designation from industrial to residential. And as you can see here, it's amended to planned unit E, and that's in the apartments category. And there's your E, just to kind of highlight it, if you will. With that, I'm going to conclude the presentation and reiterate that staff is asking Planning Commission to recommend that City Council approve the project by adopting, accepting, approving as appropriate the applications, agreements, and resolutions stated in the beginning of the presentation, based on the staff report findings, subject to the conditions of approval in the attached resolution, attachment number 4, and as modified by the supplementary memo.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions? Commissioner Harris? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the recitation of the project. Very helpful. I do have some questions. A lot of them were answered by staff in some correspondence to me earlier, but I'll try and have been mentioned in the supplemental packet, but I'll ask some for the record just so that I'm clear on it. Because it entails an amendment to the general plan land use element, there are some ordinances that we have to kind of test to see if they require voter approval to become effective. Measure E and Measure W, and I just have a couple questions I think are easily answered, but I just wanted to confirm them for the record. So are any of the lands affected by the amendment currently in the land use designation of existing parks, golf course, or open space?
No, sir.
Does the amendment expand the curb line outside its current boundary?
It does not, fully contained within the subject site.
So those are Measure W, so that's easily done. This is one in which I think I got some clarification on, but do the lands affected by the amendment, when considered cumulatively, result in a net increase in the maximum number of residential dwelling units which could be permitted under the proposed land use designations? This would be the residential allocation for Measure E.
Right, so they actually, based on the SP7 and the plan units, it is going to be within the, I would say, the range of residential units, so it doesn't exceed the maximum for that. And I don't know if I answered that question, fully, or if is that?
Yeah, I'll clarify what I'm getting at. So my understanding is that City Council had gone through a residential allocation process for allotment up to 48 units to account for the increase in residential density from industrial, which is 0 to this. It should be up to 48 units. The plan only has 27, so that's fine. So the question I had was, is the maximum number of dwelling units for this when the general plan land use amendment is passed, is that 48? And does that then also ensure that that does not exceed the baseline? Mr. Kearns?
Thank you, Chair Ferris, or Commissioner Ferris. In 2018, the City Council performed an exercise to evaluate the measuring capacity versus the existing land use designations on the map at the time, the 1996 baseline map. It determined that there was some project sites, some land use designations were underdeveloped, and we went through that exercise to determine what would be the more appropriate land use designation. Some of those were lowered from the existing designation, which created a surplus, if you will, of units, which went into the measuring capacity. At that time, it was 1,088 units that were assigned. There was 5,400 that were identified. 1,088 were assigned to the measuring capacity. We've been drawn down off that 1,088 over the years with this measuring process. And currently, we have 55 units left, but this project was assigned 48 to accommodate a 27-unit apartment project that was endorsed by the City Council.
And just to clarify, if I read the comments back to me, the 55 was after the 48 was taken out for this particular project, is that correct?
Yeah, 55 is what's remaining after the allocation was granted.
So with the approval of this amendment, it would not exceed the baseline and therefore not require vote?
That is correct.
Great, perfect. Last one is the last measure, E1, is do the lands affect the amendment when considered cumulative result in a net increase in the amount of acreage designated commercial?
No, negative.
Perfect. Since all of them are no, that it doesn't require voter approval, so I just wanted to make sure that that analysis is there for the record. Let me ask another question. I think I've got some clarification on the building heights part. So we are leveraging the Thousand Oaks Municipal Code for the building heights of the residential units. It's 25 feet maximum with some additional height allowances if the setbacks are allowed. If the project is approved as designed, which includes the parcel map waiver and the connection of other things, are you confident that the project as designed meets those height setback requirements?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the trees, I just want to confirm, do you feel confident with the arborist reports and that the mitigation measures that we're recommending for the protected tree permit will provide as best as possible the health of the protected trees for the encroachment and drip line protections?
I am very confident. After reading the report, it was a very thoughtful report. The arborist who went out to the site, who did the report, is extremely thorough. And there is, if you read in that report, there's going to be some exploratory, using hand tools to determine the limits of that root zone. So they're taking a lot of precaution to not just jump into an improvement that's going to maybe cut into a larger or viable, root network. So, yeah, based on what I read, I mean, they're going to take very careful steps. There's also the development itself. I think from where the sycamores are, they're roughly 5 to 6 feet, I think, from the wall. But then the actual development, there's actually about 15-foot, 16-foot area of just landscaped lawn. And then you get into, some of the infrastructure and then the building. So there's quite a bit of distance there. So I think this is going to be fairly, safe,
Okay,
safe situation there.
perfect. Thank you for just talking that through during this discussion. The last thing is that there is a note where it seems to be meeting all the requirements. Oh, actually, one quick thing. You did mention in your review of the plan, the only amendment to the specific plan itself is the map amendment, which changes the U designation to E. No changes in language or standards or anything like that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so given that the project appears to meet all of the standards that are for the specific plan, with the exception of the two parts about the private usable open space, minimum 100 square feet, 7 feet minimum. Can you just at least talk a little bit about that? And I may ask the applicant about that, but I want to hear about the.
Correct. So in large part, SB 7 points to the municipal code. It says for development standards, for your parking, for your height, for any other development standards, it's kind of, if you see that little chart, even though they designate these areas as planned units, the planned units have an equal, I would say, a counterpart zone. In this case, if it's residential, and it spells that out. And it says to go to the code with respect to whatever it is. In this case, if Plan E is going to be residential or high-density residential, you go to the planning code for that. And in the planning code, that's where these standards reside, the private open space, public open space, height, et cetera. And so that's what we're looking to do now to sort of justify this request for the waiver. I would say that based on the last even 3 or 4 projects that I'm aware of, residential projects, high density that have come in, have all been lower than the current standard of 100 square feet and a 7-foot minimum dimension. So they've all kind of come in, and I believe, and I'm going to turn it over to the applicant to better explain this, I believe it's a function of the market demand. More residents are valuing, a bigger interior space than a private open space. In addition, there are a lot of common amenities which I think may not have been part of a majority of the developments occurring when this standard was developed. I think it was in the 60s or early 70s. So with that, I mean, if there's maybe more more justification or kind of a more qualification of why we're asking for this, you might want to ask the applicant on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Very helpful.
Are there any other questions? Commissioner Lanson?
The great thing about going after Commissioner Ferris is all my Measure E questions have already been asked, so I can skip those. Thank you. But actually, you know what? They haven't been asked. I'm going to ask one. We obviously have done a part of a general plan update process, but we haven't had that approved. Is that why we're still evaluating Measure E as part of this process?
That's correct, yeah.
And just so I understand, there was something in the materials that said that this was part of a pre-screen. Has City Council already done the pre-screen for this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is coming back to us as part of that process.
Yeah, this is part of that process. With all Measure E unit projects, they go through the same process. So
And they went through that evaluation process when they did that as part of the pre-screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The materials indicated there was one message, or I don't know if it was an email message from somebody with regard to objection.
Yeah, yes, I believe it was a gentleman had a general objection to construction in general, and he didn't want construction being next door. I think it was construction and traffic. That would, the additional units would cause additional traffic.
Besides that one, did you receive any other communications up until today?
I had not, and I don't believe the applicant has alerted me to any other. And the signs have been up for quite a long time, just in fairness. They've been up, notices, this project's been around for a bit.
So was the one person, was there any indication they live within the area?
Based on, and I have to go back and take a look at my notes, but based on, I think, the location, I believe they were probably living in the Arroyo Villa apartments.
Okay.
I don't know if they realized this was going to be an extension. I think they just saw, hey, lot next door,
Didn't know they were going to get maybe some community benefit back and forth.
Yeah.
Looking at the project, just to make sure I understand, there is no density bonus being involved in this process?
Right. I mean, because even though if you include just, I believe, like over 10% of affordable housing, you're allowed right off the bat, I believe, 1 or 2 concessions, and I have to verify that. But in this case, they're not asking for any concessions. So the first one, I believe, is parking is what you get as a freebie, and they didn't elect to do that.
Speaking of the parking, one thing you were mentioning, and again, it went by a little quick, in terms of, I know they're losing some and gaining in other spots. It made it sound like there's something discretionary that you thought we could evaluate.
Yeah, I was going to go ahead and if I can, maybe, I might have a slide. I have to take a look here. No. Yeah, here, this one here. If you take a look, let me see if I can get this. So this is the adjacent property to the north. And what you see right here is this ADA space, and then there's a trash enclosure here. So there's going to be, when they develop the property to the south, this project, the subject project we're discussing tonight, they're going to have an aisle roadway that's going to come through here. In doing so, they're going to have to eliminate this ADA parking as well as this trash enclosure. My assumption here is that, and the way they built this in, the three additional spaces, is that these trash enclosures will have to get relocated somewhere in that northern portion, that northern development. In doing so, they may have to take out 2 parking spaces to relocate those trash enclosures. And of course, the ADA space, that's your 3. And those 3 spaces will now be located here in the southern portion. If they only end up, swallowing up 1 and figuring out a better solution, then we'll have a surplus of 1. I think the staff report kind of discussed it in the context of a single of the subject site, but also kind of alluded that this is going to be all conjoined.
Is that something that has to get definitively processed and agreed to tonight, or is that something that could be subject of a further process?
No, that would just be at the time of the building permits. They have their approved 3 additional spaces. Now, if they need an additional space, then we have an issue. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Link?
Mr. Slim, thank you for the presentation.
Sorry?
Sorry.
I beg your pardon.
I had a furniture malfunction over here. Good. Thank you for your presentation. I had a couple questions with just sort of housekeeping. And forgive me if it was in the staff report, but the developer is the same as the owner of the site to the north, correct?
I'm sorry, the
developer
owner
of this
the-
project is the owner of the site to the north, so the extension is in essence.
Oh, yes,
okay.
it's Chappelle Properties, Inc.
Okay. And then I had a question about the garage parking spaces. Is this assigned parking, or is it whoever would like to, that's more of a,
I believe it is, but I defer to the applicant.
Defer to the applicant,
For
okay.
that operations issue.
and then I think I had, no, just the other, one more for the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to go last because most of my questions were asked. I had quite a few on the smaller private open space, but we'll get to that with the applicant. My only other question was, how many bikes will these private bike corrals hold? Do you know that?
I don't know that. I think it's a formula based on the number of units, but it is something that the Public Works Traffic Department typically deals with, and it is conditioned as part of that they will meet whatever standard is needed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, at this point, it's the applicant's turn. If you'd like to come up, state your name and city of residence, and I believe you have 15 minutes.
Let's see, do I need to? Okay. Good evening. My name is Doug Griffith. I'm the Vice President of Development for Chappelle Properties. We're the owner of the Arroyo Villas apartments, which we developed back in, I think our first C of O was in 1995. Continue to own them to this day and plan to own them in perpetuity. Family-owned company, developer, owner, operator of real estate. And we look forward, we've had this lot vacant for 30 some odd years, so we look forward to bringing it as a productive use for the community, and have worked hard with staff. This plan has gone through quite a few revisions. I think we've been working for maybe 2.5 years on this program, changed the number of stories, number of units based on feedback and request from staff, and I think we have come to a design that ultimately was it was our concept that this should just be an extension of the existing apartments. So we wanted this to be a refreshed version of the existing Arroyo Villas apartments. And so with that in mind, it looks very similar. We actually changed the drive aisle so it comes through Arroyo Villas, does not come off Rancho Conejo at a request of staff. And we put a lot of emphasis on the public amenities. What we have found with apartment dwellers is they really appreciate having significant amenities outside of their unit. It's fascinating. They want to live in a resort at the end of the day. So we have multiple pools on the Arroyo Villas community. There's one right very nearby to this lot. We've recently resurfaced the pool deck, new furniture, things like that. We're continuing to invest in the property. And so we would look at actually, that is going to be a huge amenity for these new units. In addition, the other thing that we find typically is the barbecue, hangout, bench areas are very desirable. And given fire code and things like that now, we really don't have barbecues on the individual patios anymore. So we encourage, and it's basically required that you come out to the public barbecues that are part of the community, and we don't have them on the patios. Trying to think what other questions. So yeah, in terms of the private open space, this is a very consistent product that we've been building for probably about the last 5 years in terms of the space of the balconies and things like that. It's what people have, it's worked for our residents. We've had really no complaints on that. And like I said, they tend to use, they go out and become part of the community. They make their friends outside, they go to the barbecues outside, they go to the pool, they hang out in the pool deck, things like that. Really one of our bigger challenges is making sure those balconies don't become big storage areas. And the bigger they get, the more of a storage area, and which is something that we have to manage as part of the operations. In answer, I think there was a question on the parking garage, on the garages that would be underneath. We do assign those. Typically, we try and get them as close to the unit that they are either on top of or behind, but yes, they are assigned. And really, I'm here to answer any questions you might have, and we look forward to bringing some more units to the city and maintaining a longstanding partnership.
Thank you. Commissioners, shall I start at this end? No? Commissioner Lanson?
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to ask a question that I don't mean it to sound mean, but I ask it for every single person that comes before us in this regard. Do you intend to actually build this, or basically just get the entitlements and flip it to somebody else?
We 100% plan to build it and own it in perpetuity, just like we did with the Arroyo Villas apartments.
And again, you would have some credibility by virtue of the fact you have the one next door.
Yeah.
But again,
no,
it's what
I
said.
understand the question. It's a fair, valid question. But no, we have a construction department in-house. We plan to build it and own it.
I would say it's frustrating up here just with the fact that over the last 6 years I've been here, we've approved lots of things only to find out later on it goes on the market the next day.
Yeah.
So with regard to that, any idea, and again, I'm not holding you to it, any idea of a timing that might entail?
Well, it depends on when or if we are finally approved.
Good answer.
Typically, what I would say is from that point, we have to do our construction drawings and then go through plan check. Big picture, that's about a year. Depends on how long plan check takes. And then I would say that building these is maybe a 12 to 18 month, 12 to 20 month process. Some of it depends on whether we get lovely weather like right now. That slows us down, but that's about the ballpark.
The questions we have with regard to parking and that middle unit, is that something
Yeah.
you've already thought about, or is it something you would leave till later on?
No, we have thought about it. And that's why we kind of knew we had to find 3 parking stalls on the new parcel, because we were losing, as Nazar said, we were losing the ADA stall and the trash, because that's where the drive aisle comes through. So we've already laid that out so that we know that it fits.
Okay, all right. And aside from, I know there was one public comment that staff had received, have you received any other comments? Again, nobody is here necessarily, but I didn't know if you received any other comments from the community.
No, I haven't heard any comments at all.
All right, great, thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Commissioner Link?
Actually, I have a Commissioner Lanson question for you. Do you agree to all the conditions that have been set forth in the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. I did actually have one question because it's came up in my own jurisdiction, but one of the condition 24, I believe, requires that you actually merge the two parcels into one single parcel. Does that
Yes.
do anything with regard to your financing, make it more difficult?
So we have to go get approval from the lender of the existing Arroyo Villas to let us do that. This is a small enough project for us that we don't anticipate getting a construction loan to build these 27 units. So that makes it a little bit easier. And at the end of the day, the collateral that the lender would be getting on the existing apartments is actually more. So we don't anticipate that being a problem. And it's the infrastructure and the drive aisle and everything coming from Arroyo Villas to this parcel, which is what's creating the need for this parcel merger. But because both parcels ultimately, they're be owned by the same entity or the same company, we don't anticipate it being a problem. But we do have to go get approval from our lender of the existing apartments.
Okay, sounds good. And then one other question I had was, do you have a proposed affordable mix? One 3-bedroom, two 2-bedrooms, just for my own edification, has no bearing, I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, we did agree on that. I believe it's 2 1s
Two.
and 2 2s, yeah.
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Ferris?
Thank you. First of all, I really do like this project. It's well designed. It looks very nice. I actually do like the outdoor barbecue area. The fact of creating more open space for the area, I think is really good. So I want to commend you for that. I do have a question. I just wanted to get an understanding from your perspective. What would the impact be to the project if you were to comply with the 100 square foot minimum 7-foot dimension? What would happen with the project? How would you end up having to deal with that?
So there's probably 2 methods that I could look at complying with it. One is currently there are storage closets on those balconies, and those storage closets could be converted as part of the private open space. There are 2 units on Rancho Conejo that if they had to extend towards Rancho Conejo would require the whole building to move. Because they would extend into the front setback, I believe it is. So we would have to rejigger that building, and I'm not exactly sure how that would work. And it would also necessitate a smaller landscaping zone next to building 2. So those 2 units would be the biggest challenge, just because they are up on, and this was a request to have units fronting Rancho Conejo, to activate Rancho Conejo, make them, as activated as possible, a nicer pedestrian experience. Those 2 would be the biggest challenge.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of get your sense of the reason why that was done. You made a case for why it doesn't seem to be as appropriate for those that are looking for new units now, but I wanted to just understand the impact of it.
Yeah.
One last question. So this is, as you said, you've been working with staff, and there's been a lot of feedback, and you've been kind of working with understanding how the project can happen, what's required, parcel map waivers, or mergers, all this other stuff that's happening, and a development agreement, which would then give you certainty on, if approved, you'd be able to purchase that or be able to build to it. That negotiation happened with staff and so on, but this is the first time that Planning Commission or even City Council had the opportunity to see the details of that and to be able to ask what potential community benefits are there, given that we've got the 4 affordable units that you've mentioned that are at the moderate income level. I could go through, I'm going to ask a question. I could go through and ask for something really big and try and negotiate with you, but I'm just wondering, given that only 4 of them are moderate, we still do not have any very low or low that are in our RENA allocation. If there were a recommendation to have 1 of the 4 be either at the very low or low income level as part of that community benefit to do for this project, is that something that would give you extreme heartburn?
It would be challenging because of the size of this project, being only 27 units. To be able to allocate it across the 27, it's a very small project. And I'll say the part of the history was we were actually originally asked to make a much bigger project. And as we went through with staff, then it came out that no, actually that's too big. And we had said at that time, with a bigger project, we could do more affordable housing. So this ended up as a back and forth with staff. And so we netted out on a smaller project, thought that that would be a more reasonable scale for the community, and that's what would really be the extension of Arroyo Villas, which is what we had originally proposed. And so when it gets small, it's very hard to absorb.
But I'm just requesting on any change to one of those units that are already identified to be restricted.
I don't have the math right here to know, but it would be challenging. I could
What would the
look at
impact
it.
of that be? It would just be a reduction in the rent you could get from that one
Correct.
apartment, correct?
Correct, because we build them all exactly the same, right? So the costs are the same.
I'm just trying to do the math myself, and it would be a reduction in the rent of that one spread over all 27 units, because the other 26 would not be affected by the change in the one. Be about 1%?
No, the difference between moderate and low is actually a fair amount.
No, for the rent for the entire development. Of course, for that unit, it would certainly be larger. But spread out over that, it would probably be about a 1% effect.
Could be, I honestly don't know. I don't,
I appreciate your willingness to at least give your feedback on
Yeah.
that. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I have a couple. First of all, I do appreciate what you've presented here, and I appreciate that you haven't asked for any density bonuses. I think that's a real good sign for our community that we're not pushing the limits. Just out of curiosity, bicycle corrals are fairly new. Do you have any on the current property?
that is a good question. So I'm not sure what a bicycle corral is. I've seen in some of our other developments we've done, in City of LA, they condition you to do their actual lockers. If that's a bicycle corral. We don't have any of those on the existing Arroyo apartments because they were built back in 1995 before most bike storage came into being. That is one place where, going back to the balcony and the private open space, that closet there, that storage closet, is very useful for people to be able to put things. It's not necessarily bikes, made for bikes, but everybody has stuff, sporting equipment and what have you, and that's useful. So I don't know. We don't have any bike lockers. We don't have any. We have places people can lock bikes up on the existing apartments. I don't know how many, and I don't know the details, but I'm happy to find that out.
That's not really my question. My thought is that if you're going to put it at the new area, then there's more people riding bikes these days, a lot more people, and I'm concerned that there will be enough for everybody, because will people from both areas want to use it? And I'm just going to throw it out that maybe we need some on both properties.
Yeah, and
None of my
honestly,
business,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
If we have a lot of demand for them, we are happy to put some on the existing apartments. We haven't had necessarily people come and ask for that, but we do have enough space on the existing Arroyo apartments where we would be happy to put bike lockers and things like that there. That actually is not a problem. If we put these in and all of a sudden people are coming into the office, and they will, by the way, they'll come and say, hey, those look really great. Why can't we have some on our side? And they will absolutely come ask us, and we're happy to do that.
That's great, because we want more people riding bikes.
Yep.
So, lastly, your comments about the smaller outdoor balconies and patios, I had been really concerned about them because I know several people now currently are quarantining from COVID. And if you're quarantining and you're isolated, it'd be nice to have your own private space where you have, and I was really kind of bothered by it, but I feel that your explanation makes sense to me, so thank you. I'm okay with all that now. Like I said, I was bothered, but I think you're making a lot of sense, and at least there's some there. So let's see if I had any more questions. No, I don't. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there questions of staff? Oh, well, we do not have any public comments. So do we have any questions of staff?
So,
Well-
we do have one person, and I'm not sure if it's an applicant consultant on the line, but we just wanted to check to see if that was a public comment or if that was
No,
something.
we have a consultant ready to comment. That's our
Okay.
CEQA consultant, but I don't know
Okay.
if there's a member of the public that wishes to speak. about
I
that.
don't have any speaker cards.
We
Mrs.
have
Gore,
an unidentified caller, so we're not sure if they're a public speaker.
do we want to
We'd like
patch
to
them
ask
through?
them.
Or how do we do that?
Carolyn, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I've unmuted them and they are able to talk if they wish. Our phone caller in Zoom, are you there?
Hi, sorry, I'm just calling in from my phone. I am with Chappelle Properties. I'm with the architect, and I have nothing to add.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I guess we've crossed our Ts and dotted our Is, so. I'm sorry?
So I apologize, so you can go back to staff now,
Okay.
please.
At this point, do we have any questions for staff? Okay. Did you have any other comments to make?
No, I can just kind of volunteer some just clarification info. We did mention bike racks, so it is actually part of their conditions of approval that they have 5 U bicycle racks that can accommodate up to 10 bicycles. And that was, again, a function of Public Works, but that's also in their resolution, in the conditions of approval.
And Chair, if I may, as you know, it was just mentioned about the development agreement, and this is the typical process that we have for the pre-screening. Due to the nature of that process, we do enter into a development agreement. And I do want to mention that in this particular case, we did negotiate with the applicant in good faith. They came back in good faith to reach some of the benefits that were not initially part of the deal. And so I do appreciate the comments on asking for those things. I just want to make sure that you understand that we as staff were making this recommendation based upon a number of factors, and we look at a number of things when it comes to negotiating these development agreements. And you'll see with the history that we've had now with a few of them, the ranges of the benefits change for both applicant and for the city when it comes to these deals. But I just want to make a note that it was through a good faith negotiation effort on both sides to reach the deal points that we are recommending as part of the development agreement that is attached to your packet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heer. Mr. Kearns, the applicant has talked about, he originally wanted to build something bigger, and the city was talking to him about maybe reducing it. Did you want to comment on that at all?
Yes, Chair McMahon, thank you. The applicant's comments were correct. They initially went to City Council for the allocation for a 2-story product, which is what's before you tonight. City Council members made comments that they would like to see more units, more affordable. The applicant responded by going through a substantial expenditure to prepare revised architectural plans to add units, but by doing so, they added a 3rd floor. Which would have been inconsistent with the architectural design of the buildings that are existing for the complex now. Additionally, we have single-family residential to the east. We are trying to minimize the privacy impacts to those homes. So we did ask them to scale that back, which they did, went back to the 2-story product that was endorsed. So they did respond to staff's comments.
Thank you very much. Okay, does the applicant have any more comments, rebuttal, anything? Okay, thank you. this point, we will close the public hearing. And I will now open up the floor for discussion and/or a motion. Commissioner Lanson.
Thank you, Chair. Initially, I want to say thank you very much for the process you went through. It's a beautiful project. I know it's a long process, and we very much appreciate you investing and coming and being in our city, so thank you. I do see from what Mr. Heger said that this is a long process that was done between everybody. This isn't something that just gets thrown at the wall and somehow comes before us in a week and a half. So I know there was a lot of back and forth, and that's kind of the difficulty. And again, Mr. Kearns, you kind of just pointed out, I mean, I think we're all looking for opportunities for affordable housing, especially I have a 30 and 28-year-old that would love to live in the city, but for the fact that we have million-dollar homes and it's cost $1,000 a square foot to try to build anything. With that said, there's a trade-off, and the difficulty, again, as Mr. Kearns pointed out, is to get that affordable housing, usually we get it by density bonus, which would mean, you know, you get a little bit, city gets a little bit, and then we all of a sudden have a third story and we get a project that is probably not in compatibility with kind of the surroundings. And that kind of creates that difficulty. With that said, you didn't ask for a density bonus. You're adding some affordable units, even though at the moderate level. Again, this is not a large enough project probably to get us a whole lot in terms of that process. Which is tough. The balconies, I do have an issue as well. I do, again, I think as Chair McMahon said, understand the trade-offs. The storage thing is a good thing. I like the fact of not necessarily having the barbecues on the outside and having the area. It's funny, I almost looked at this as you said on vacation, I think at some point, and that's kind of what I was looking at this as a nice thing for that kind of mentality. So looking at all the issues and understanding kind of the trade-offs that go into this, I am in favor of this, and I will make the motion. The question being is, do I have to read all of this, or can I just say I move to recommend and approve staff's recommendation?
Yes, you do.
No, I'm not talking to you, Commissioner Lake.
Mr. Heger?
Just give me a second here, just so, I just want to make sure there's clarity with the recommendation. So, yes, I think what I would say is that as long as you understand the recommendation is two parts. The first part is that you are recommending approval, or that City Council adopt the negative deck. And then the second part would be that you are recommending that City Council approve the various applications request, including the general plan, land use amendment, development agreement, residential plan development permit, specific plan, and protected tree permit.
And the supplemental changes.
With the supplemental changes.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So yes, that is my motion.
So
Thank you, Mr.
that is the staff's recommendation, and we understand your motion.
So made.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Ferris?
I think it was a cop-out that you didn't read the whole thing. I mean, our secretary read the whole thing. So, although I was just joking before, is that we might have to like have a vote to go past 11 o'clock if we actually did that. So, I will support the motion. I'm not going to ask for any amendment to modify it or anything like that. I understand the back and forths and kind of where we land on this. Given that all the negotiation is kind of happening at that staff level and got to hear, I do think looking at the RENA allocations that we have, I think sometimes maybe we need to potentially at the city council level and propagating down to the commission and staff level, we need to lean in just a little more to do that. So given that this was an opportunity to bring that up, I just wanted to get a sense of it. But I think this is a well-designed project. I think it is highly compatible with the neighboring project. It seems like an appropriate way of asking for all of these interconnected things to make for a nice set of additional housing and homes for moderate income families to be able to reside here in Thousand Oaks. There is one element, maybe we can talk about this afterwards, is that I generally get uncomfortable whenever we have a set of standards, but we are always waiving them. In order to do that, maybe we as a commission ought to revisit it. That particular section was part of the original 1974 ordinance, has been on the books for some time. So either we believe that should be the standard, or we should review the new standard so that we're not always being asked to waive it for projects. So, but for all of that, I will support the motion.
Commissioner Link?
I'd just like to point out that what had happened here is one attorney played another attorney and ended up having the resolution read for him. So I just want to make sure that we're all clear on that. Anyway, no, I see a lot of really good things with this project, especially where you have a parcel which, in its current state, as it was previously designated in both the general plan and zoning, is probably unusable. It's too small for the kind of industrial product that is being built today, where we have these, especially in Rancho Conejo, these large incubators. There's an incubator next door. So that plays into the second role of this project, is the fact that it will provide much needed housing for people who are being incubated. That's probably the wrong word, but the kind of families that we are hoping to attract to Rancho Conejo, and the kind of workers that we are hoping to attract to 2000 Oaks, this is the perfect product for it, frankly. So I appreciate the efforts that you went through in order to get to this point. I understand it was quite a process, and unfortunately can be a process, so I wholeheartedly support the project and look forward to it.
Thank you. Commissioner Lanson, did you have anything? Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for preparing. The report was amazing. I mean, as the newbie on the commission, I read all of it. I read all of it, and thank you very much for the level of detail, because it really kind of gave me a sense for how this process works. And I want to thank the applicant, because this is really a lovely addition to that area. And as Commissioner Ling said, this is precisely what we need there. It's precisely what we need there. So, and I like the fact that you build community, the fact that you're enthusiastic about building community, and as Commissioner Lanson said, that you are going to build it. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, will the secretary please prepare us for a vote?
Commissioner Ferris?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Link?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Yes?
Chair McMahon?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And I'll just make a note that there's no appeal, because this is merely a recommendation to City Council. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Next is item 8, department reports. Are there any?
There are no department reports this evening.
Thank you. Item 9, commission comments and AB 1234 reports. Are there any comments? Commissioner Lanson.
The guy who won't stop talking. I just wanted to actually recognize Cal Jory at the Acorn, who is stepping down after 19 years. Thank you for all your work, and welcome to Becca, who's going to be taking over. But more importantly, the tree issue. We actually had on this application a tree that fell down recently, so be very, very mindful out there of trees in your neighborhood. Again, they may look fine up above, but the root system may have been degraded. Again, lots of different subsidence issues. Be very, very careful around trees, especially ones that have problematic roots. And if you see an issue, again, there's a website for the city to contact them with regard to any kind of those issues. Maybe, Mr. Kearns, if you know that information as to what they contact. Sorry to throw you under the bus there.
Well, that's quite all right. They would contact our municipal service center directly. They have a tree crew that will go out and look at those trees. I do not have their number handy, though.
It's on the website. But again, if you see a tree on the street, don't think you can just drive over it. Please, please don't do that. Please try to go a different way, especially if you get a warning. So that's it.
Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, I have a quick one. Commissioner Ferris brought up something that I think is valid. I've been here for a little bit longer, and this is the third project where we have waived the 100-square-foot balcony patio condition. So I'm wondering if this is something we need to reevaluate, and maybe something the staff could take a look at and see if it's valid for the 2000s, 2020s, as it was when it was written. That's all. That's my comment. Are there any other comments?
I mean,
Okay.
I don't know how much we can comment on that subject, considering it's not agendized, so.
No, I just meant general comments. I was
Just
just
general comments.
making that comment that maybe that's something the staff needs to evaluate.
I would just say that, as we're looking at affordable housing, we need to keep in mind that it cuts both ways. So if we want to do that, well, then we need to expect that a waiver could come up, so just.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Let's see. On item number 10 is staff update. Mr. Kearns, are there any follow-up items, announcements, or upcoming issues?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Tomorrow night's city council meeting, there will be 2 items on the agenda from the Community Development Department. One is a department report on inclusionary housing. The other on consent item is appointment of an area housing authority commissioner. On March 14th, there will be a department report regarding the progress on the general plan. March 28th meeting may be canceled. And on April 4th, City Council will hear this item, the public hearing tonight, as well as an amendment to consider repeal of the residential resale reports. Coming back to the Planning Commission on March 13th, we will have another recommendation to City Council on a 73-unit apartment project. It's a renovation of an existing, or redevelopment of an existing site, which is a commercial office building, to consider 73 apartment units. And then on April 3rd, we will have a special use permit for a proposed car dealership in the Rancho Canal area. The March 27th meeting does not have anything on the agenda at this time and will likely be canceled.
Thank you. At this time, thank you, everybody. The meeting is now adjourned to the next meeting, March 13th, 2023, at 6 p.m.